What is up, guys? Welcome to the live stream. Today, we're going to be going over how to find some awesome off-market deals, off-market real estate deals, and I'm going to be going over a lot of the ways that we have found deals and that I know of finding deals that we're currently using to get some awesome off-market deals. Today, I'm happy to say that we just closed on probably one of the best deals we've ever gotten. And it was actually pretty unorthodox the way that we actually got this deal. Most people don't do this or are not in a position to, but this one is going to be probably our deepest deal yet. We bought this house for $72,000. It is a 4-bed, 2-bath in Lansing, Kansas, which is a good area, and it is worth at minimum $250,000 all fixed up, maybe even more, depending on the conditions and stuff. We're only going to have to put maybe 60,000-70,000 into it, so probably only going to be 140,000-150,000 in all in cost. And this house is going to be worth at least $250,000 once we're done. So right there, that's a $100,000 profit on this one deal. And this is a cosmetic flip, guys. This is it's not a super heavy rehab or anything, not very complex or anything like that. And this was gotten off market, direct to seller, no wholesaler, nothing. And so this is one of the really cool deals that we have right now. And we are doing a lot of deals all the time, guys. We're doing right now, we have about 7 transactions in progress or rehabs in progress, including this one we just purchased. And we are flipping those. Some of them we're trying to wholesale, but mostly we're rehabbing to rent. And today I really want to focus on the different ways that you can get deals off market, and going from the ones that I have used personally to get deals off market and some of the ones that I just know about and that we are using, but may have not gotten a deal through it yet. Guys, with this and with real estate and with like wholesaling and flipping, the biggest thing to remember, guys, is you have to be patient. Okay. You have to take action every single day to get more deals. And, a lot of days, it's going to feel like you've accomplished nothing, because you're taking action and these results are not panning out for typically months after you start working on them. And that's hard for a lot of people. They want that instant hit, that instant gratification. And, unfortunately, especially when getting started, or even if you've got something going, it's hard it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. We've taken our business. We've been in this over a year, and really only in the last 3 months have we really started ramping up to full time and getting a large volume of transactions going to where we're actually, typically closing on deals, once a week or every 2 weeks at this point. And we are, growing and growing as time progresses. But guys, some days I don't feel like great. Like I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I'm still making the calls. Like I'm calling buyers, calling sellers, calling lead sources, analyzing stuff. And, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. Right. But then when you finally get that one deal, like this deal, guys, we worked on this deal, this Lansing deal for probably followed up with the seller for 4 months at least, from the time that we became aware of it to actually, getting it under contract and then closing was probably a 5-month process, guys. So, but, is it worth it to make, once from we got the deal, now it's probably going to take, 2 or 3 months to actually get the place turned over, in 8 months total time. And, granted, we haven't invested a ton of time into this. It's just taken a long time to mature. But, from the actual time that we got the deal to it being done, it's probably going to be about 3 months. And, we're going to make $100,000 profit in that time. So, you do the math, and that's just one of the, 7 or 8 deals we have going on right now. So you can see that it really doesn't take that many deals to make a lot of money in wholesaling or flipping. And the guys, that we could wholesale this deal and easily make 30 grand we were gonna offer the gal 100,000 for the house, but she came out of the gate at a lower price, and so we ended up not doing that. But that's the price we would pay, and we're pretty conservative. We could probably sell this for 100, 110 as is, very fast. So, but we're gonna go up to that slow dime instead of that fast nickel on this one. And but that's, it's definitely worth it to make that amount of profit, from a single deal. And again, this is probably one of the better deals, but guys, it just takes patience. Bottom line, you just have to be consistent. You have to stick with it. Like when I got into this, I quit my job a few months ago, about 3 months ago, and went full time into wholesaling and flipping. And, I made a 24-month commitment that, I am going to stick with this business for at minimum 2 years, from the time I quit my job to really, really give it the time it needs, really master these skills, guys, because, I have a guy that even a couple months ago, he was, getting into wholesaling. He's all gung ho. He's trying to find deals. And then he's sending me stuff. He's really just not getting the right deals. And, that doesn't mean that he needs to quit. He just needs to keep, trying and figuring it out. And then a couple months later, he tells me that, he's quitting. He's going to go do e-commerce, right? Or drop shipping, right? It's just dude, you only gave it 2 months, this is not, it's not enough time. You can barely even get a deal to close, from getting a lead to closing in 2 months. I mean, there's just no time to even get anything going, without giving it a good time commitment. I mean, if you're going to do a new business, I would give it a minimum 2 years of full unwavering commitment before you decide if it's the right business for you, because that's how long it takes, to really get something dialed in. Now, thankfully, me and my partner are, getting into this. We are having a lot of success right out the gate because we are putting a lot of effort into it. We have done this in the past. And so we are already, getting enough activity going to where we are, quickly increasing our income and net worth through the business. And it's already what I would say is success. And we can definitely continue to replicate and grow as we go. So, but guys, with that in mind, let me give you these nuggets, this information. And when I give you this, take it and you need to apply it, guys. You have to go, I'm going to give you a lot of different avenues. If it was me, and this is a piece of advice that I've heard from wholesalers and flippers that are doing, hundreds of transactions a year. Like we've probably done, maybe 15 this year. I have to count them. And this is our first year, but these guys are doing a lot of transactions. Okay. Way more than we are. And these are the guys that I aspire to be. And what they've told me is that, there's a 1,000 ways to go get leads. And, you've got text, call, this list, that list, whatever list, postcard, all these things, they all work. If you, Google how to win with whatever X, way, you can make it work, right? If you can make it work, the key is not that one way is better than another way. The key is sticking with one way for long enough and dialing it in to produce results. So I would take what I'm about to tell you guys and just pick one, guys. Just pick one channel, and one form of communication to start, right? Maybe you're going to text and call, or maybe you're just going to call, or maybe you're going to text, right? I would just take one way and pick one form of communication so that you can really dial it in, because it's a lot easier to say, I am going to just market to people in foreclosure and I'm just going to call them, and I'm going to figure out how to call, and I'm going to get my scripts dialed in. I'm going to get my, my tonality dialed in. I'm going to just figure out the pain points of this one person so that I am going to be the master of getting deals with, from foreclosures by calling them on the phone, right? That is going to be the difference between you being successful and you being strung out across 5 different lead sources and, trying to figure out how to call and text and send postcards and all this nonsense, right? It is a lot harder to get these 10 things dialed in than one thing. And if you can just really focus on one thing, guys, there's more than enough deals in that one section alone, guys. I promise. In each of these methods, there's more than enough deals for you to make 6-7 figures, in income for yourself if you just focus on that one thing, because you're going to lose trying to be the best at 10 things. But you can be the best at one thing, guys. So take what I'm about to say, pick the one that sounds the best to you, and just go hard on it for at minimum, 4 to 6 months, guys. You just need to, dial in on that one thing for 4 to 6 months. Now, at the end of this video, I'll kind of tell you what we're focusing on, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. You might have different personality. You might, have different income and financial means, but just take whatever one of these things and just go hard on it. All right. Figure it out. Okay. That's how you're going to win in wholesaling or flipping or, deal acquisition in this regard. Right. So let's go through some of the ways that you can find deals. So, and I'm just going to go these in no particular order. If you're probably the easiest way to find deals, I'm going to go from easiest to maybe hardest. Okay. Now, the easiest way is to find wholesalers. Okay. So wholesalers are guys that this is if you're a flipper, if you're a wholesaler as well, if you're trying to get in wholesaling, you can make money here as well. And I'll tell you how. So if you're wholesaling or if you're flipping, wholesalers are a great way to find off-market distressed properties. Okay. These guys have already picked a channel, they've dialed it in, and they've already gotten the deal. Okay. They've done most of the work for you already, right? And they will mark it up slightly and sell it to you. Now, if you're a flipper, this is great. If the deal makes sense, it makes sense. Who cares if they make some money? They did a lot of the work getting you the deal. All right. So that's a great way. How to find wholesalers is super easy. Just get on Facebook, get on your local investing groups, and look up, I am a cash buyer. I'm looking to get on some wholesaler list. I buy in these areas, XYZ, and they will be happy to put you on their buyers list. Okay. Now, if you're a wholesaler, then you can also work with them, right? So we just closed a deal yesterday where I joint venture JV'd with another wholesaler. He got a deal under contract. Okay. He found the seller through his marketing, and he knew me, and he was like, "Hey, Dan, can you help me find a buyer for this deal? I'm having a hard time with it." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll find a buyer." And so we agreed that we would split the fee, the wholesale fee, 50-50. And I ended up finding a buyer for him. So we ended up, it's pretty slim. We only had a $5,000 fee for this particular deal. And we split it 50-50. So I made $2,500 on this deal. So, it's small, but guys, it's $2,500. Like, for some of you, that's a month's pay, right? Like, and it only took me, maybe, a couple dozen phone calls to get that deal closed, right? So there's a lot of money to be made, even working with other wholesalers. Like, I know a guy that, all he does is joint ventures with other wholesalers. He's built a big buyers list, and he has his assistant run around all day long on these Facebook groups, and everybody that posts a deal, he sends them a message, and he's like, "Hey, would you like to joint venture? Would you like me to find a buyer?" And what he does is he actually does a non-exclusive agreement to where it basically gives him the permission to market your property without, preventing you from selling it if you find a buyer, right? So it's a win-win for everybody. He'll typically get it, mark it up a little bit, and market it to his buyers list. And guys, there's a lot of money to be made there. We bought deals from this gentleman, and a wholesaler got it for, they had a $3,000 spread, and he put a $4,000 spread on top of that and sold it to us, right? Like, and that's not a ton of money to a end flipper. But if you're doing that a bunch of times, you can make a lot of money, a few $1,000s as a whack, just taking other wholesalers' deals and trying to market them. Now, I would probably, if I really wanted to build a sustainable business, I would really dial in my direct to seller marketing. But if you're just getting started, this is a way to kind of get your foot in the door in the game. And if you find a deal, you can do it the other way. If you find a deal, you don't really know how to handle it, you can come to somebody like me or another experienced wholesaler and be like, "Hey, I'll split this deal with you. You teach me how, you help me find the buyer. I brought the seller, you help me with the contracts. Let's do this 50-50. So that's a way for you to do it as well. And that's what I would do if I was getting started. If I would much rather do a deal and split the deal and learn than not get a deal at all and just, have my pride and spin my wheels. So Let's go on to some of the other ways that you can find off-market deals. That's probably the easiest one. I wouldn't say that's true off-market because you haven't really gone straight to the seller, but that's a good starting point. That's where most people start. Okay, so the next way and the most accessible is probably foreclosure lists. Okay, now this is, you can buy these lists from a lot of people. A lot of people will sell you a foreclosure list, whether it be batch leads. There's a link in the description for that if you want to get about 1,000 free properties on there. Check that out if you like. That's the software we use. You can download those lists, or I just figured this out from talking to another investor. So it's all public information, foreclosures, guys. Like, these are publicly announced. So what happens is, what a foreclosure is the bank is filing a lawsuit against the homeowner for non-payment of rent, is what it is, right? And so when that happens, it is actually publicly announced by the local county government where that house is. And the local county governments put out public announcements in whatever newspaper they use every week. Okay, so that's maybe notices of foreclosure, notices of whatever, any government notice, they're put out weekly. Okay, so I'm going to drop in here. So this is all the local Kansas City publications for all the local Kansas City counties, right? And every county will have, they have to have some kind of newspaper publication that the announcements are put out in. So like every time a foreclosure happens, it's announced in the newspaper. Okay, and you can probably get these before the list sources pick it up, right? And if you're like, we're just dialed in on the Kansas City area, so there's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counties that we are going after. And so it's really not a lot to keep up on, right? You just got to check it once a week and see if the notices. If you want to get really on it, you can actually go to the courthouse and you can figure these out before they ever hit the public announcements, right? So you can potentially do some kind of off-market deal with the bank, or at least have the knowledge. You can figure out the house before it gets publicly announced. Go talk to the owner. Maybe you can work something out with them. So I'm going to put in here a banner. Let's see. So I'm going to put in here the list of these. So like this is, so like Leavenworth County is the kansascolumn.us. And then those are pretty much all the Kansas public notices are on that website. All the Missouri public notices are going to be on mopublicnotices.com. Okay. And so that is a great way for you to find the public foreclosure notices. Okay. Also on there, same websites, are the probate notices. So like if somebody dies, or if they have like an estate sale, or like if something goes to probate, like those are announced publicly, because if somebody dies and they have an estate, they have to publicly notify anybody that may have debts against that person or heirs of the estate that the person has passed and that their estate is being divvied up, right? So that those are also in there. Okay, is public notices of death. Okay, so with that, so that is a great way. These public notices are a great way to get leads. I talked to another investor, and what she does is she is an agent and real estate agent. She gets these notices, and what she'll do is go to the owner of the house that the house is getting foreclosed on, and she will try to get them to sell the house, right? And in this case, you could go to them and try to buy the house from them, or figure something out to prevent them from going to foreclosure. So now that makes sense in some cases, but that's what you can do. So you can still, what you can do is you can look these people up. There's an awesome resource called True People Search. It's just Google it. I'll put it in here real quick for you guys. This is the best kind of skip trace tool that I found. So truepeoplesearch.com is a great tool for you to use to look up anybody's name and where they reside. So you should know if you are looking at a house, what house or what town they're in. You can look them up and you can quickly find most people have a phone number associated with them, and usually it's correct. So you call them, it's totally free, and you can be like, hey, I see you're in foreclosure. I'd love to help you out of this situation. There's a bunch of scripts for that, but that's the way you can get leads, is go do that. So there's publicly listed here for free. So if you're dead broke, you can, which hopefully you're not, but if you are, you can get the notices here for free. You can get their phone numbers here for free, and hopefully you have a phone, and then you can call them, right? If they're in an LLC, you go to opencorporates.com and you look their LLC up, and it shows who owns it, and then you take their name, you go to True People Search, and then you look them up, you get the phone number, right? So basically anybody that owns property can be found, their phone number can be found, and you can get in contact with them. So those are a couple ways to find the leads. Those are really good because probably some of the best is foreclosure and tax sale and probate, because they have motivation, very high motivation, because they have a time crunch, right? There's literally, like, if they don't act, the government will come and seize the house and then sell it on an auction, right? So they have a lot of motivation to act within a specific time frame. A lot of other lead sources, there's not inherent motivation to do anything, right? And so it's harder to get them to take a discount because they have time, right? Now, if you have, if you're able to list properties, like say you partner with an agent, maybe they want the highest price. We'll go list it with them, make the commission. But if they're pressed for time, like in a foreclosure probate situation, and they probably don't have the money anyway because they're getting foreclosed on, that is a great opportunity to get very cheap deals. Okay. And this is what most wholesalers focus on for these reasons. They're probably the best leads, just if you're doing them in volume. Okay. So let's talk about some of the other ones that are available. So we've talked about foreclosures. Tax sales are very similar. It happens when the homeowner does not pay their property taxes, and then these houses are sold once a year, typically in the winter, on a specific day. Check your local government. They're sold at the price of whatever the taxes are. But the thing about those is you can do that, but the owner will get basically redemption rights to for typically a year after you pay the taxes, where they can actually pay them back and retake the house, right? So there's some risk there, but if you wait long enough, you can get houses really, really, really cheap. So let's talk about some of the other ways that I've gotten deals. So when you're driving for dollars, this is kind of an extension of that. Obviously there's driving for dollars. You can literally, all it is driving around and looking for dilapidated houses that have, physical cosmetic, damage, or they're not being upkeeped, or they just look like they're falling down. It's pretty obvious. If it just doesn't look clean, like if there's damage, if there's things that need to be repaired and are just not, it's probably a good opportunity. That means that the homeowner is, they don't have money, or they're not spending it on the house, because typically, people will probably keep the outside of their house up more than the inside of their house if they're a homeowner, because they want, social appearance is very powerful. And if they're already letting the outside of their house fall down, the inside's usually worse. And that means that they're in a distressed situation. So driving around looking for distressed houses is a great way to find leads. And then you do what I did before. There's tools like Deal Machine that automate this. But you can also, just write the addresses down and then go to like True People Search and find them. And then you can find who lives there and call. Now, an extension of that is for rent signs. So for rent signs. Can't see the thingy. Okay. For rent signs. So a for rent, and specifically when you're looking for rent signs, look for the like the ones you buy from the hardware store, like the mom and pop for rent signs that are just super basic, with like the write in phone number or whatever, because those are the ones that are typically private ownership. Now, there's custom ones out there that are like corporations and stuff. And management companies, I would stay away from those. I mean, you can try to call them, but you're not going to get a hold of the owner most of the time. You're going to get a hold of the property manager. Now, if they have a for rent sign, that means that they're self-managing. They have a vacancy, so that means there's pain, right? Like the worst thing the worst situation a landlord can be in, the most common, like painful situation is vacancy, right? It's like the worst time. The tenant moves out, the landlord is not, they're losing money by not having a tenant. And typically they have to, when a tenant moves out, they typically have to spend money to renovate the unit, at least a little bit. Most of the time, there's going to be a little bit of wear and tear and things just by the nature of people living there for a long time, right? So the landlord's in pain, and they might be a tired landlord ready to get out of the game, and they just haven't, like, nobody's approached them and offered to buy their property. And so the thing they're thinking about is, hey, I'll rent it out, I'll just go through another cycle. But hey, they might be willing to get out, right? So it's always worth a call. I actually bought probably one of the best properties I ever bought, a triplex off market. Mom and pop for rent sign. The property was, rented well below market rates, and literally went over there the next day and signed the contract as I walked through it the first time. So probably one of the cleanest deals I've ever done. But I made about $35,000 day one on that deal. So they can be very powerful. I just called another for rent sign and for a similar property, and the gentleman did not want to buy or did not want to sell his property, but he was another investor, and I ended up having coffee with him the other day, and he's looking to become a private investor in what we're doing. So whether they want to sell or not, they are owners of property and they can be your friends, and there's lots of ways to work together. I've called a lot of investors and we've actually become friends and may partner on deals, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can use these leads besides just buying property. Another great way is code violations. So code violations are like, and you specifically want, like, the property's just damaged code violations. This is kind of like automated driving for dollars, in the sense that the city, a given city has a lot of workers, and there's inspectors in the city, and their whole job is to go around and make sure that the city's being kept nice, right? And so that means that, if your property has physical damage, and this could be anything from, they usually code it out in the descriptions of what the code is. But that could be, there's like a car on blocks outside, or the lawn's too high. But specifically what you want to look for is, like, there's physical damage to a property, like maybe the siding's falling off, or a tree's falling down, it's not getting cleaned up. There's all sorts of things. But like, the cool thing about these is that there is no software that pulls these, right? Like, it's very difficult for a software to do, because they're not publicly listed like the foreclosure notices and stuff. This is how these softwares are able to harvest these things, is because they're publicly listed and they can just scrape them right off the webpage. But with a code violation, you have to actually go and email, call, or go in person to the courthouse and request the code violation list. And so it's not very hard, and it's very cheap. I pulled one from one town, it was $5. I pulled another from another town, it was $10. For a lead list of hundreds of leads, it's pretty cheap, right? And the cool thing is because of that extra friction, there's far fewer people that are doing that, right? There's not very many people that will take the time to literally, call the courthouse or drive down there and meet them. They're very nice people, and get that list from them, right? So that I would say there's like an order of magnitude less people calling the code violations. Okay, but again, good leads, because the owner is in pain, right? The city's after them to fix something, and for whatever reason they haven't. which usually means they, don't care about the property or they don't have the money to do it, and thus are interested in selling, and so those are great leads. So those are harder to get, but very cheap if you put a little time into them. For the price of a Big Mac meal, you can have yourself a list of 100 leads to call. Your time, you can call people. We've pulled a couple lists and we've gotten a few good leads off of that we're working right now. So and those are also great leads. Like a couple people, I called an investor, right? He had a house and we hit it off. I went and had coffee with him the other day. And then another investor owns 30 units and resorts, and I got to follow up, but I'll get a coffee with him and he'll be another great connection. So, unfortunately the city's after him, but he doesn't seem like he's hurting, so he'll get it fixed, but he could be a great investment partner or lender or something like that. And guys, if you ever run into, other investors and other, owners of property, like, respect them, guys. Like they are your friends. Like you're all in it together. Rising tide lifts all boats, especially with landlords. If you can increase your rents, they can increase their rents, and you can actually, if you own enough stuff in an area, you can raise the whole area up, right? And if you're renovating properties, that's pushing the values of the overall area up. So, most landlords are very friendly with each other, right? Like there's no, you can be like, hey, I'll give you tenants. If I have all my stuff filled up, but I get a lead, give it to them, right? There's lots of ways to be friends. That goes on to my next one, which is for sale by owner leads. So I just talked to a guy yesterday, went over to his house, called his sign. So we're going to FSBO for sale by owner. Okay, so these are so FSBO leads is people that are selling their house, right? They're selling it themselves. Okay, now let me give this a caveat. These leads are kind of a mixed bag because I would not go, if you're really wanting to build a business, I would not focus on these because while they are relatively easy to get a hold of, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be very difficult to convert any of them. Okay, these guys you want to approach a different way. Let me explain. So the psychology behind a for sale by owner guy is that he wants to sell his house and not pay commissions. Okay, because basically, and they can vary, but as a general rule, and this is somebody that's literally buying discounted properties for a living, the way to get the most money for your property is to put it on the market with an agent, right? Because even though you had to pay 6%, you're typically going to get the highest and best price for your property. Okay. Now there's occasions where the property is really cheap. I would probably sell it off market because I don't want to pay the commissions. It's not worth it. There's not enough margin, but in general, that's what you want to do. So when somebody is selling for sale by owner, that means that they want to get the highest and best price. They want to pay nothing. So they want to keep all the money, and they are not motivated enough and have no timetable to where they would even go with an agent, right? They believe in their abilities to where they can sit for as long as they need to sell this property. So how you can actually monetize these is through seller finance. Okay, so that is one thing that's good with FSBOs or for sale by owners is that they are not going to be receptive to you trying to beat them up on the price most of the time because they don't care. They will sit on the property longer, right? So lowballing them will have no effect. Okay, they won't take it most of the time. But if you go seller finance, you can offer them a full price or even maybe above what they're asking offer, but on your terms, right? So you can turn that into a rental and get really good financing terms, and they get the price they want. So look into seller finance. It is a great way to work FSBO leads. And that's actually what I'm approaching this gentleman with is a seller finance offer for his property. And he actually has 8 more rentals and he's looking to get out of the game, but he's limited by his taxes. He doesn't want to sell all of his properties at once because he doesn't want to get all his money taken by the government. And that's one thing that's awesome about seller finance is that it really limits the tax liabilities of the seller. So that we could end up buying all, 8 or 9 of his houses, seller finance, like now, instead of him waiting, however many years to sell them all off, right? And then he gets what he wants, gets rid of all the headaches. I get what I want, more properties. He gets the cash flow. I get great financing. Everybody wins. So that's another great way. So guys, before I go into some more methods, I want to quickly, go over some of the ways that you can contact or communicate with these leads. So the 3 most common are definitely postcards and then calling and texting. Okay. And these are, the most tried and true. You can email as well. I would recommend that if you can find their email. But generally, if you really want to get seen and heard, I would call, text, or send postcard, preferably all 3. But getting started, I would just do, 1 or 2. Right now, for instance, we just call and text. So we send out cold texts to, automated cold text to all of our leads. And then the people that respond, I call, right? So if they respond and they have some interest, I call them immediately, right? And I am like, hey, I saw you were interested. Let's talk about this. Because guys, texting is a good way to get in front of people and get, just assess if they're even interested in a call. But it is a terrible way to actually get anything done, right? Because it's very difficult to do any kind of, negotiation or rapport building or trust or anything like that through text. It is very cold and it has a purpose, but it's very transactional, right? So I would get people on the phone as soon as possible. And guys, even if you think you suck on the phone, everybody hates the phone, guys. Everybody hates the phone, right? So even if you hate the phone, get on the phone, right? You're going to need to learn how to get on the phone. All the money is in the phone, okay? And if you suck, just suck and practice and you'll get good. That's what I did, all right? You're going to suck. I've been calling people for 5 years, all right? And I sucked, and then I got better, and now I'm pretty good at it, right? But it took a long time. And this is a long game, guys. Business is a long game. So get on the phones. If you just absolutely hate it, send people postcards. Let them call you. But you're going to have to talk to somebody at some point, guys. Do not be afraid of talking to people, all right? Communication is the way for you to make all the money you could ever need. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Iron that out, all right? But just pick one or 2 things, right? If you just hate calling, you hate cold calling, send people postcards and then let them call you if they're interested, right? If they're calling you off a postcard, they're probably very highly interested in selling their property to you. So let's go over some of the other more lesser known ways to find deals. Okay. So a good way is, so obviously the 3 main motivations in life are debt, death, and divorce. Okay. This is typically why people take action. All right. Now let's go on to the and then prison is also a good one. All right. So if somebody commits a crime, a good way to get leads for houses is by contacting bail bondsmen, actually. And how that works is what a bail bondsman does is if somebody gets convicted of a crime, they get arrested and they go to the county jail and the judge sets a bail. So bail is literally, you're not yet a criminal. You've been charged. You haven't been convicted. But you're going to sit in jail unless you can pay X amount of dollars to bail out. And then you have to if you don't show up for your court date, they take the government just keeps that money, right? So it's a way to financially incentivize people to come back to court. And so what a bail bondsman does is they'll put up 90% of the bail money and you pay them 10%. And if you don't show up, they have to come after you, right? But typically to secure that 90%, they want collateral, like a house is the most common or something of value, right? So if the person doesn't show up, they have a lien against that house and they don't want to mess with the house, right? They're a bail bondsman. They're not a real estate guy. So, if you get a hold of them and be like, hey, I'm buying houses, and they have a house and they've got a major lien on it, but they don't want to mess with it, they'll probably sell it to you for nothing just to clear their lien off. And so that's a great way. Become friends with one of them, and they can probably provide you a good source of leads. Same thing if somebody goes to jail, because they'll know who's going. Then you can, actually maybe contact the person going to jail and see if they want to sell you their house. I've heard of people, they've closed deals visiting people in jail, right? Gotten houses under contract. So that's a pretty unorthodox, but could be a pretty effective way. A lot of motivation there, Other ways, probate attorneys, which is probate is like if somebody passes away, all their assets go into what's called probate, which is essentially a holding period for where the government technically controls the person's assets until all the heirs are figured out and the will's figured out, and it processes through and is figured out how it's distributed. And so if you have to be friends with the probate attorney. Cold calling them probably won't work. Attorneys are not interested in giving out client information to strangers. So you have to become friends with attorneys and other legal entities like title companies and things like that, because they are not going to just give out the client information to, Joe Schmo, right? But if you take them to coffee, provide them value in some way, meet them, they're a lot more apt once you become friends to help you. Okay, so that's going to require a little more upfront work, but can provide a great source of leads in the long run. Same thing, divorce attorneys. When people get divorced, a lot of the times, if they have a house, they can't decide what to do with it. They want to sell it. Then you can come and buy it, right? You're a surefire cash buyer. Then the divorce attorney will want to be like, hey, I got this guy. He buys houses fast. You guys can get this figured out and split the money, right? And there's a lot of pain there. And there's a lot of just, get it over with wanting to happen, right? So that's a good way to go to get leads. Again, it's going to require a lot of upfront effort on your part to befriend these folks. But once you do, it can provide, leads forever for free, right? So, you weigh it out. So guys, that's a lot of the ways. Another way is bird dogs. So a bird dog is kind of like a wholesaler, but they just find the deal, right? They just locate it. They're like, hey, this house, I talked to this guy, or I heard this thing, and there's this person wants, is having a problem or wants to sell or XYZ. There's nothing solidified yet, right? So they're like, hey, you check this out. Here's the information. Go do whatever you want with it. So how they typically work is, you're like, hey, like with us, what we do is we tell people, hey, we'll pay you $2,000 if you let us know about an off-market deal and we end up closing. We'll give you $2,000. Okay. And you can set up these arrangements so that way it's no risk on your end as the buyer. But if they do find a deal, they'll get paid, and you only have to pay them if you close. And so that can be a great source because, you're just not everywhere, right? There's a lot of deals happening that never even make it to the wholesaler because, Grandpa Joe buys it from his, brother or something like that, right? So like if you can step in, then you can get that deal where you might not have. Okay, that's a great way. And these are great people that are bird dogs are like, trash out people. Like if a property's trashed out, like or needs to be, and the owner's having them trash it out, like that's a great lead. What other ones, like garbage guys or people that drive around all the time. I mean, the list is in, lots of service people that are good sources of leads. Those are a lot of them, guys. There's a lot of different ways out there to find leads and get off market deals. To name off some of the ones that we've used is, wholesalers, for rent signs, for sale by owners. We've bought properties just that have been advertised on Facebook for sale by owner. What else we've bought from real estate agents on market, of course. Here's one that you might not think about, is actually is tenant leads. So if you're a landlord, you have rentals. It's rare, but sometimes, in this case, like this super great deal we just bought, it came from a family that wanted to rent one of our properties, and they own this house but wanted to move out, and they were going to sell it to another wholesaling company or cash buyer company, and we were like, hey, wait a second, let's talk before you go ahead and do that. Maybe we can have a better offer than them. And so we followed up, and sure enough, 4 months later or so, we were able to get this deal done, right? But sometimes if somebody's moving, they have a house that they're moving from. Like I just had a lead on a guy that moved his girlfriend into a rental, and he owns a house in my town, and we'll probably end up listing it for him at some point. So there's a lot of different, there's leads there, right? Especially if somebody, if they have property, they might want to sell it. Like, why are they, wanting to rent if they own a house, right? Usually because it's distressed. So keep an eye out for that as well. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I hope you got a ton of value from it. Please go ahead and like and subscribe down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Facebook, and we're going to go ahead and close this out for now. If you guys want any other topics, please comment on this, send me a message, and we will get it. If you'd like to be a guest, do the same thing. Give me a call. And with that, I will see you guys in the next chapter.